All right. Welcome to the stream. I hope everybody can hear me. Yeah, here we go. All right, welcome to the stream. Just like last time, the stream involves me painting, and now it involves me eating a bowl of soup while painting. Simply because I haven't eaten today. Last session, I painted the Roper, a perfect mimic monster, a perfect battle brute for any dungeon crawl. We used a ton of interesting colors. I said I use like 6 to 8 colors on a regular basis. We end up using 11 different colors for this guy, and we gave him a nice dark wash. Seeing that he turned out better than I could have ever hoped, we're going to go with the same exact style that we did for him. With the Bone Golem. As always, in the top right corner of the stream, you can see the official D&D or Pathfinder art of the thing we are trying to paint. And as always, I will take extensive liberties, as I don't want it to just look like a thing that we can just buy off of the internet. I want to paint it to be memorable in color and scheme for my players as well as for myself. I plan on painting this guy a ton of gross colors. He's going to have, obviously, bones, a nice jack bone, which is a very nice deep tan. For all the bones that are just sticking out of him and all the skulls. And then we're going to go with a wonderful murderous magenta as a inside out flesh color for all the muscle. And then we will kind of take a nice finishing touch with a nice red. And speaking of, I need to find that red. So let's go ahead and take a look at the different kinds of reds we might use for this paint. We know we're going to use jackbone for sure for the bones, and we're going to use murderous magenta for all the muscle and the flesh that is residing underneath. But at the end of the day, we may also use one of these two reds for a nice droops of blood. This Scorned Red by P3, the P3 formula. Scorned Red is a nice deep red, very crimson. And then this Kadar Red base is very bright. A nice dried finished product of that Kadar Red is the red that is on my Green Dragon's wings that I had painted before last stream. Just kind of give you and the viewers an idea of what a finished gargantuan product will look like after we paint it here on the channel. If we want to use this red for the blood, we'll notice that it kind of dries on almost an orange. almost oranges. It's very bright, so I think we're gonna go with a nice dark scored red. So that will be the deciding factor in what we want. But as always, we might change some things up depending on how it ends up looking throughout the stream. So we will at last kind of just take a look and approach the painting the model with the same strategy that I always use. I take a look at what I want, and I always paint the miniature. I base them with one entire color, maybe two entire colors if there are definite cutoff locations on the mold of the miniature. But he's basically going to be two primary colors. He's going to be his murderous magenta flesh color, and then he's going to be jackbone tan for his the bones sticking out. So if we don't want to be super careful about the jackbone and about applying the murderous magenta around it, we're actually going to paint the skulls and the bones first. So our first color we'll go with will be this jackbone. Welcome to this stream. Let's see here. So what we'll do at first is when we're just basing a miniature, the size of our brush won't really matter. We're not trying to get too detailed with it. I always just use a solo cup of water just to contain my water. Nothing special there, but no one wants to see me sploosh water around and clean my brush, so it'll be off screen. But whenever you see my hand kind of drift over in this direction, it's just because I'm washing my brush. So the first thing we want to do is shake up our paints and make sure that we get rid of any clumps that are in there and kind of mix up the colors. If this is your first time on the stream, just know that I'm happy to have you keeping me company. And this guy's going to look beautiful when he's done. You can see the direct comparison of how a miniature starts on the stream and then our finished product of how many colors we'll use. Right now there's only 3, but this guy started with 6 and we went to 11. So I imagine we'll start with 3 and we'll go to about maybe 6 or 8 colors by the end of this. So without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing that I like to do is take the color that we're going to base with, and we can kind of be as sloppy with this very first paint as much as possible, which is why I'm using such a thick brush. For large size miniatures, I always use the Army Painter Wargamer Regiment as my baser. For medium-sized player character miniatures, I go with a size smaller, 1 or 2 sizes smaller, just to kind of have kind of a little bit of self-control over it. But we're just gonna start at the top, and I see a skull that's just waiting to be painted. So we're just gonna take a huge glop of paint at the tip of this brush, and we are going to move it around. Now, the reason why I'm starting with painting the bones and basing the bones first is because when we go in between the cracks with the murderous magenta, who cares if a little bit of that flesh color gets on the skulls? The skulls and bones will look further embedded into the monster if a little bit of paint splashes up on them, which is just fine. But we wouldn't be able to do the opposite if we based him his flesh color, and then we would have to take a small little brush and try to paint each bone individually. So I'm just kind of cheating. All I'm worried about is simply painting him. Getting this bone color all over the place. And then going back through with the murderous magenta. So we can already see on the top of this golem that there are a ton of bones just lurking. And you can see there are going to be some tricky areas already just looking at this miniature and trying to paint him. We'll probably need a smaller brush for the detail of adding the flesh color, because getting underneath this exposed rib cage will be difficult with the size brush that I have already. but that's neither here nor there. Where this miniature will turn out phenomenal no matter what we do, no matter how bad the paint job is, simply because he is simply made of two factors: inside out flesh and bone. So we can kind of be a little bit less conservative with the paint strokes. We're just trying to get as much of this bone based as possible here. Now even as painting him, I get excited and think about how I'm going to use this guy in a campaign in mind. Because truth be told, I really don't plan encounters out too specifically. When I look at a miniature, I say, what's a cool way that I can present this mini to my party of players, as I am the residential DM of many of my groups. So when I looked at the Bone Golem, I knew I had to have him. I knew I wanted to paint him, and I knew I wanted to present him at the table. The Bone Golem will act as a really cool on the clock kind of race against time boss fight, as a pool of demonic acid eats away at the players, and then lo and behold, this thing rises out of all of that filth as a shambling mound of bones, and then is finally given form. The players will have to deal with him as they attempt to disable the trapped room or find a way out of the huge pit that they will inevitably find themselves in. And I think that's a really unique idea. But you could also use this guy to show off a necromancer's power. If the players have been tailing a necromancer in your campaign and you're like, I just don't want him to summon just any old undead. I don't want him to summon any small goons or grovel goons of skeletons or zombies. If you're kind of sick of that aspect, I highly suggest looking into the Bone Golem. It'd be really cool. It's a really cool scene to think about when the necromancer that the players have been tailing for a while in your campaign, and they finally corner him in a graveyard or a mausoleum or anywhere, really, anywhere that you want them to find him in the campaign. It's up to you. But when they finally corner him, you can have this huge scene of all these bones, and the players think they're going to fight an army of skeletons to get to this guy. And then all the bones start rolling together, and the cleric who could turn undead was really excited because he's like, oh, I could destroy a fucking skeleton if I'm like level 10 or something, right? But there's no way that a cleric could destroy outright a Bone Golem. And then seeing this hulking mass come to life as the bodyguard and first and most obvious threat in the necromancer battle would be a very cool way to introduce such a miniature to your players. And I think I find that to be more, some of the most exhilarating parts of being a DM is like how I want to not only introduce a story and a character or a monster to my players, but now that I paint miniatures, it's like, ooh, how can I showcase this guy? How do I want to introduce this boss, this enemy, or this good NPC, to the players? And I just kind of think about idea after idea after idea. But there's not, in my campaign, there's not a big, bad necromancer villain. And I'm not going to add one just for the sake of having this Bone Golem come to life. But instead, they'll find it as a lurking monster at the bottom of a acidic pit. So it will be cool nonetheless. Not as theatrical, not as dramatic, but I love a good trap, but I love a good double-edged sword. So not only just any trap, but a trap with a twist. So in that instance, the twist being this fucking super big hulking mass of bones. I believe the Bone Golem in 5th edition only has like I a slam attack with his arms or something. But you can, as a DM, you can always add cool, unique little homebrewed abilities to make the enemy more viable. Look at that. He's already turning out to look really... We can already kind of see what our based miniature will look like by the end of this. And it's going to come out really good. I'm actually most excited to add the flesh portion and then to detail him a little bit later, a little bit further down the road. He'll be very cool once he's done. I have no doubt about that. So I'm purposefully missing some areas to base that are white. I'm going to leave part of him white because there are no bones protruding out of his body. So I'm going to leave some parts white, like underneath his leg here. There's no reason to base that the jackbone tan, because I will go back into that later with the murderous magenta. So there's no reason to go over 2 layers and then having to layer over again just to make sure that no tan is there. So we'll leave that blank for now. And that's a little cheat we can do just to save some time. To save the 3 seconds it would take just to glob that up with paint. But his right leg, or rather his left leg, is done, and now we're going to focus on his right leg. And we're going to take a look and see how many more bones are protruding out. Thanks for the like, Tank. We're going to produce as... or we're going to cover as much of the bones as possible in this tan. I might go back over, now thinking about it, I might go back over the bones later in the detailing segment with a different color tan to give us an idea of multiple, these bones being pulled from multiple grades or multiple areas, making them, one skull maybe a little bit brown or a little bit dirtier, representing it was deeper in the earth before, finding its way to this golem. We can also put some gray, maybe make some of the skulls gray later in our detailing segment. And just kind of so we can, differentiate between what is, what bone is what. Because as you see in this mast on his leg, we see one full skull right here, and then we just assume the rest are skulls, right? So I never like painting anything all just one color as a final product. I like to, if I see a huge mass of everything that's the same color, if I see different bulges like that, different things that could be different colors, odds are I'm going to make them different colors. Just like we did last paint session with the roper. The roper was made up of hundreds of small rocks protecting its fleshy inside, but we went back over with a lighter gray over many of the rocks to make the roper, to make him look like he was made up of more than just one kind of rock. He looked like he was made of dirt and clay as well, which I thought was a nice touch. So to see what I'm talking about, this is why I love having a reference that we already done on a stream before. But he's not just made up of one dark gray. You see he has a tan or parts up on top and a tan... a more tan stalagmite here protruding out, but the majority of him is this really dark gray. But you can see all over his backside are different kind of tans and browns, which make up a really nice looking miniature at the end. So we'll do the same thing with all the bones here. We are just basing him all one color so that we know what is going to be bone, and then later what is going to be flesh. You'll get the idea. You'll see by the end of this how it's all gonna work out. You have to have faith in me. Is there anyone out there that paints, that watches? Is anyone into painting miniatures right now? I've been painting for years, but I was so nervous. This is my second paint stream. I was so nervous painting the roper on stream for all of you because I was like, what if they don't like it? What if my product turns out bad? What if I have nothing to talk about to fill the void of silence? But I'm really happy I did it. So if you're out there thinking that you have a hobby you want to do and you want to share with people and you don't think you're good enough or you don't think anybody will like it, I promise you that just putting it out there will feel good. and you just have to be proud of what you do. You know, you can't put a stream on just to try to get likes and just to try to get fans of your work or something. You just have to put your work out there. So I sucked it up, and I'm really happy that I painted the roper for you guys. It was in this really trying time that we're having in our country with COVID, and everybody's depressed these days. So it was nice just so that I could share my nice little slice of relaxation and like my all-time favorite hobby with you guys. I'm glad you find it wholesome. Man, I love that feat. That is such a cool feat to have. What a cool ability. Um, Temporary hit points, man. If I gained a single temporary hit point for every miniature that I have painted, I really don't know how many I would have. I had one maybe on one of my streams. I'll just showcase and talk about all the miniatures that I've painted. Maybe I'll do that for the next stream. We'll just go over techniques that I did and the challenges of painting certain miniatures. So see how right here I'm just kind of going wild. There's a lot of bone protruding out of his back, and that's uh, exciting to me because his spine looks really good, really gnarly. And I know I'm gonna have to come back through this area with the murderous magenta, regardless of how clean I paint the bone. So that's why I'm just kind of. It looks like I'm painting like a Neanderthal, but there's rhyme to my reason, I promise. It would be really cool. I'm using that next session. Oh man. Well, I don't. I'm just speaking from the heart, my man. Like, it's been such a fucking weird time. The last year and a half has been so weird for me that painting miniatures and just playing D&D in general has been like the most like this the best thing the best hobbies I could get into at those times, because it just takes my mind off of all the bad shit that we are so used to being spoon-fed by the media and by social media too. We go on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and we see how we get a little peek of window into everybody's lives. And like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a status that's been about, man, this week is fucking hard, and it's like you see 57 people in the comments just like, preach, girl. And like, everyone's feeling the same kind of shitty vibe. So I promise you, if you feel like you need an artistic outlet and you don't know what to do with your time, and if you're just sitting there depressed as fuck, try to get into miniature painting. I mean, I'm not saying what works for me works for everybody, by no means, but out of my family, all of my brothers are really good at drawing, and I suck. So I always thought that I would suck at painting. But it turns out that I put my first ever paint job was just a naked bare ass skeleton. It was one color, so I was like, how could I fuck this up? And I was painting him, and I was like, after I painted him just one color, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I can paint. And and it just turned out great. And from there I was like, you know what, maybe I'll try two colors this time. Maybe I'll paint his sword. And then I got a skeleton with a sword and a shield. And then I got this nice little red rustic wash, and I was trying to be a big boy and trying to make a nice cool highlight on his shield, and it turned out really cool, and I loved it. I fell in love with miniature painting ever since. As soon as I painted my first little dinky ass skeleton boy who was a single color, I was like, fuck yeah, I can paint. And then it just went from there. Just like everything in life, practice makes perfect, and nothing is perfect either. You're all, I think how we grow as humans and as human beings, and how we grow in our arts and in our hobbies and in our skills or profession, I think we should always look to improve. You should never be satisfied with your work as someone who's creative, but you should be content with like how it looks. If you're sitting there trying to perfect it, you'll never be finished with a project. That's why I always limit myself to some colors. So like I could have painted the roper and painted each individual rock a separate gray or a different shade of tan, but I would have been there for hours. So I just decided, hey, 3 different kind of colors: the dirt, the clay, then the rocks, and he looks fantastic. You just need to know when to put it down. You know, you need to know when to stop. And that's for everything. That's for everybody out there who's like even trying to write campaigns right now, and you're like, oh, but what if my players don't like this, or I need to find the perfect plot twist or the perfect ending, or run the most fun, best session ever. No session is going to be the best session ever, and no campaign is going to be the best campaign ever. Just like any character that you make isn't going to be the best one at the table at any point in time. You just have to be content with having fun, and if it brings joy to you, then fucking do it. I'm in your corner. Have fun playing the ass rogue. Just don't make it a habit of pissing off your fellow party members. You know? I find that most of the time, especially at my table, I don't know why this happens to me at my table so often, but at my table, whether I'm playing with a brand new group of people or I'm playing with longtime friends that I've always had at my table since like fucking high school, I always end up getting whether it's a player I've known for years or a brand new one, I always end up getting one player at the table that throws me for a fucking loop. And like I will explain to everybody the theme of the campaign, the arcs of the story, what kind of characters what kind of characters they should make, and then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I'll make that. Yeah, I'll follow suit, and I'll make a really good character for this." And then one of the players will make a character who just doesn't fit into my initial vision of the campaign. But I think every DM needs to just kind of accept that you're not going to get a perfect Lord of the Rings, a perfect Fellowship or a perfect cast like Harry Potter or something. Or I always see that meme of like the D&D party you want, and it shows like all the characters from Lord of the Rings, and it's like the D&D party you end up with, and it shows the Monty Python and the Holy Grails cast. I found that so fucking funny because it's true. It's true. You start a campaign with these, with half a party who wants to take it super seriously, and you start, and the other half of the party wants to make fun characters, and you have to decide as a DM what kind of players, because there's no wrong way to play Dungeons and Dragons. There isn't. There's not. It all comes down to if you're having fun, and if the players are having fun. I've been in situations to where, yeah, exactly. What Sean just said is perfect. It doesn't matter where you want to put the plot twist. Your players will get to it whenever they want to. Like looking for someone through a scrying stone when they aren't supposed to be. Yeah, that just happened last session. I could get into that, but unfortunately, 2 of my viewers here are playing in a current campaign of mine, so I can't talk about exactly the specifics of what he's talking about. But yeah, basically I had a thing in the story, and the players end up finding it with really good role play and really good rolls, and just kind of like just the natural course of things, they end up getting to this a highly magical item, and now it's at their fingertips, and you as a DM kind of have to just live with that. I'm a huge believer that if it's part of the encounter, you have to be ready as a DM to let it go. I see so often that DMs introduce NPCs or big bad evil guys or monsters or villains that they love, and no matter what the players do, they can't beat them. They can't defeat them. they can't harm them. They have to defeat them the only way that the DM intended them how to, after lording over them with this character for session after session after session. And I can't tell you how many fucking times, like, all right, I'm running this pirate campaign called 7th Sea, and we just finished it. We just finished it on Saturday, so like 2 days ago. We just played the grand finale. And every time a villain got introduced, every single encounter, the very first encounter that the villain was introduced in, they died. The players killed them, and there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do, and I couldn't like teleport him or her out of the encounter. I couldn't stop them from dealing damage, right? I can't say, oh, suddenly she has a resistance because she can't die here. No, her stats are there in front of me, and they killed them. They killed every last one of my villains, but it didn't make, and it's not the villain or the bad guy or the monster that's going to make the encounter memorable. It's going to be the story that they tell. And if the players triumph over that villain when you expected them not to, that is huge. Why crush that party's celebration? You should join them in celebrating how they fucked on your big bad evil guy in the very first encounter, throwing you for a loop. I love that. That's why I love being the residential DM, is because, and that's why I'll continue to write campaign after campaign after campaign, because I love it when I create something and then the players don't even fucking touch it. And I go, wow, I've prepared the whole session for this, and then they're not going to do what I want them to do. Now, you can give them a little nudge as a DM, sure, but you can't force them into doing something. Otherwise, they'll feel railroaded. And that's a shitty feeling. Like, I have experiences when I was at a table playing Adventure League when I was traveling for work a couple years ago. And there was a few times at the table when I was playing either homebrew or like real adventures within the Adventures League, that no matter what we did as a party or as characters, our characters' decisions didn't matter, and the DM was just basically big dicking on us the whole time and saying our characters were just the vehicle in which the DM could tell his story, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. Don't be that DM. Don't be the DM who creates NPCs who can do everything better than the party. The party needs to have something. They're the main characters, not you, Dungeon Master. It's your world, your rules, sure, but it's not necessarily even your story. The number one rule I have when I sit down and I play with my players is that if I'm playing with 6 other people, I own 1/7 of the story. I might be the one describing the locations, the characters, but it's not mine. My least favorite word is no at the table. If a player says, can I use this for that? If it's really fucking cool. Like, I had a acidic vat boiling over onto the floor as a trap in one of my old sessions. And instead of making a dexterity saving throw like everyone else had to, one of the players opted to say, hey, I have dragon's breath. Can I use that instead to kind of try to freeze the acid? And I was like, fuck yeah, that's cool as shit. Let's see it. And so the acid does 4d10, 4d10 acid damage, clearly. And I had one of the players roll for how much damage the acid did, and that was the HP in which the acid would have in order to freeze. So it was cool for like 2 or 3 rounds. He was using Dragon Breath trying to freeze the acid, and it eventually worked, and it was just a really cool thing. It was just a perfect example of as a DM, you should never be against hearing out ideas from your players, because just like they don't give you enough credit for doing things and for painting miniatures and for coming up with a really sweet story, you as DM never give the players enough credit for playing in your campaign happily. I can't thank my players enough for playing in my campaigns giving life to my favorite hobby, you know? It's a really cool feeling. D&D has been my favorite thing since I was 14 years old because every single one, I can count them, every single one of my best friendships has always been forged around the D&D table. We all met around, over D&D, and shit, we're still playing D&D to this day. So it's much more than just, a game to make, silly voices and to roll clickety-clack dice. You make real, genuine friendships. I can't tell you how many times I've been out with people after D&D and wanted to just, drink and go to Cedar Point with them just because they're cool people, And obviously the ones that you don't vibe with at the table, I know people, I play with people, and, I know many other people play with people that they'll play with them at the D&D table, but they don't vibe with them outside of the D&D table. Whether if it's because it's political differences or, because that, personalities, no matter what, no matter how good of a role player you are, you as a person, when it's not your turn, you will, naturally you'll talk and get to know, especially you play not just a one shot, but you play a full-fledged campaign. I gotta block this guy. Give me 1 second. I gave him the Van Hammer. I don't like the suggestions, and I don't like the ad bots that come in. That's not cool. That's not cool. Don't do that. But political differences are gonna come up, and my number one rule is just don't be an asshole, man. Like if someone, you can suck it up too. If someone is offending you or you don't like the way they role play their character, you can mention it to them in the DM, whatever makes you more comfortable. But don't be afraid to speak out against that player and say, hey, I don't like the way that you are treating other players outside of their turns. Everybody's an adult that comes to my table, and we all, move our schedules around to have this one day a week or bi-weekly that we can get together and have fun. We're all playing it to have fun. And if you're not having fun, then you're missing the fucking point of Dungeons & Dragons. It shouldn't be a stressful thing. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't have real world, or not real world, but it shouldn't have interesting consequences either. There are very real emotions that come with playing Dungeons & Dragons. If you're frustrated at a certain character that the DM has included in the story, maybe take that frustration. If you don't agree with this character, maybe take that frustration and put it into your character and be like, man, how will my character react to this? Not every point of conflict or contention at the table, both real and in the game, has to be a walk away from the table situation. We're all adults, we're all mature. We can, set aside political differences most of the time to enjoy a good fantasy story. Most of the time. So we're done basing the bone golem. Look, he looks great already. If I had no shame whatsoever, I'd just put him on my table like this. I'd be like, here's the party. Here's their goose's ass. And there's in my dungeon, I'd do this. Here you go. They're done. But that's not who I am, unfortunately. I have a lot of shame. A ton of shame when it comes to painting miniatures. Because I'll sit here for fucking 16 hours. The Green Dragon, the reason why I didn't paint him on stream is that he was legitimately a 16-hour paint session. And he's still not done. I'm still looking over his mini, and I'm still like, what the shit can I do with him to make this look better? But I eventually, you should have to put it down. So we're now moving on from basing him with the Jackbone Tan to the Murderous Magenta. It is a nice, vibrant looking color, and it looks so good on the tip of that paintbrush. And we're going to take this and we're going to start basing his flesh. I might have made a mistake already. I might want to use a smaller brush. In fact, I'm not even going to attempt with this brush. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh no, I dropped my, oh. I'm not even going to attempt to paint with this brush. I'm going to move to a smaller one, so we can do this perfectly without error. So I'm moving on to using the Army Painter Kolinsky Masterclass. I love this brush. This brush is really great for detailing on large miniatures. And remember, the size categories are small and medium, large, and then huge. You can see the significant difference. And then obviously, if you want to get complicated, there's the Gargantuan miniature, who I can't even fit in the same screenshot because he's so fucking big. He's got a 4x4 inch base, and the miniature, as you clearly see, extends out beyond that base. He's like fucking 6 inches tall, this guy. He's huge. So the Kolinsky Masterclass Army Painter is the perfect brush to use for detailing on these large miniatures. So that's exactly what we will use to apply the Murderous Magenta in these small areas. So we're going to paint his left arm with it, and we're going to see how well it comes out. I literally just applied it, and I'm falling in love with the complete contrast of the bone with the flesh color, and it's coming out phenomenally. When I'm basing, I can talk a lot, and I can just spew shit out of my mouth. But when I'm detailing, I actually have to pay attention. So the stream might go quiet sometimes, just so I can get a nice idea on how I want to paint this guy. I also bought a light after last paint session. I went on my way and bought a I'll show you guys. I bought a huge filming light. I don't know what to call them. I don't know. But they're like, it's a huge, that thing's like 2 feet by 2 feet. And it just shines a nice white light down. So that way I can, have more light. Because it gets dark in my apartment, and I want you guys to be able to continuously see the colors coming through. So I hope this looks better. The lighting is better than the last episode. Than the last stream. I already love that contrast. That is, he's looking really fucking good. He's looking really, really good. So we will continue to paint his arm. And remember, we're going to go back over this the flesh color. We're going to give the entire golem a nice dry brushing of red. So that looks like it's just gnarly, just blood pulsing out of him too. It is going to look gross. And that's what I strive for. When I paint monsters, I want them to look as gross as possible. I ironically want to avert the eyes of my players. I paint the miniatures, and I'm like, yeah, look how fucking cool this paint job is. And then I'm like, but my secret is that if they're not looking at it because it's so fucking gross, then I have truly succeeded. Yeah, there's no way that last brush was ever going to get this detail that I needed out of here. I'm still getting used to like the positioning I need to use when painting these in front of the camera. He's looking really good. I gotta find a way to have some music in the background without making any copyright no-nos. I know last session, one of my viewers mentioned to me that I could find a plugin that allows playlists to play on your stream without any bad things happening. So I'm going to look into that for my next one, because I'd love that it'd be just some music so that we could all hang out and chill together without relying on me to necessarily talk the entire time. I'm sure you guys will get sick of me talking. Especially my players who watch me, they hear me talk constantly and sometimes to myself as multiple NPCs. Which I have received some interesting criticism, constructive criticism. We finished this last campaign, as I mentioned, the 7C campaign on Saturday. And at the end of every campaign and halfway through every campaign, I will always take a session to ask the players how they are liking the campaign so far and if it's keeping them interested in continuing the story. And I always just get their feedback. And at the end of the campaign, I ask for like constructive criticism and how I can make it better for the next time. And so everybody loved a handful of NPCs in my pirate campaign. It was a lot of fun to roleplay, some of the best roleplay I ever done for some characters. And I'm not usually a comic relief DM. I'm a very serious dude most of the time when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, but some comic relief is fun, you know. And I made a relationship between two characters, Captain and his first mate, very toxic and purposely toxic but funny. Like they're both like plotting to kill each other throughout the campaign, which sometimes in order to put that point across, I like roleplayed with myself, but my players are laughing the whole time. These two characters basically shared the screen together, and I loved that. That was so much fun, and I'm definitely going to start introducing more unique comedic ideas into my campaigns, just to kind of keep the more lighthearted parts lighthearted. Like I have an Awakened Shrub and Icewind Dale that I'm running as well for some of my players. An Awakened Shrub named Tulip. Because all he can say with his intelligence is, with his botched awaken spell, is Tulip. So he's obviously called Tulip. But the way he says Tulip is always like comprised of the emotion behind it. So like when he asks a question, he's like Tulip, Tulip with a question mark, Tulip. And when he said it's Tulip, you know, just like a fucking Pokemon, basically. Is the best way to put it. And it's just a lot of fun because like I'll be in the middle of a really serious scene, and then I'll, you know, Tulip will be there, and then I'll say, oh, Tulip does this, and it's usually just Tulip saying Tulip. And they're like, what about if I'm like really in the moment of roleplay? They'll be like, how's that go again? You know, making fun of me and shit, and you know, poking fun, and it's a good time because we all just laugh. So don't be afraid to embrace the weird and the wacky aspects of D&D. If magic exists, you know. He's Groot, right? Yeah. If magic exists, odds are there's, you know, just like in real life, the internet exists, and there's a lot of weird shit on the internet. Like, have you seen Meat Canyon's fucking cartoon videos? Some weird shit out there. And that's not bad. You know, weird isn't bad. It's just that if magic exists in D&D, of course people are going to do some weird shit with it, you know? They're going to do some weird fucking shit. And you just got to be, I think, like, embracing the weird. Not everything needs to be super serious all the time. Which is why I used to hate bards, because, you know, 4 years ago, I was a pretty serious DM. I hated the classic, you know, bard, oh, I'm going to fuck everything. And then it's either you die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. And so I'm a player in one of my friends' campaigns, and I created a character named Ardent Avari Aldrich, and he is a bard. And this character flirts with this girl who ends up being a fucking dragon. Polymorphs. And that, I didn't know that, but it was just hilarious because, like, I inevitably became the bard who was trying to fuck a dragon. Oh, how the tables have turned. It's ironic. But it's funny. Embrace the weird. Okay, he's turning. I am loving this contrast. Are you guys liking it? Does he look good so far? I think he looks good. I'm not just trying to toot my own horn, but I think this flesh color is really popping. Sometimes on a mold, I can't tell what is supposed to be what. I'll just see blemishes or bumps on the miniatures mold. And I will not know if it's supposed to be, like right now, I don't know if it's supposed to be bone or flesh. And I'm just going to go with flesh color because that's what's going to, you know, kind of make the other bone stuff pop out is this flesh color. So if I'm not sure what that little bump is, I'm just going to pretend it's flesh and move on with my day. I can only paint with my right hand. So that's why I hold the miniature in such weird, sometimes, ways, is because I just can't get to that spot with my left hand, unfortunately. My left hand is a little bit, is just a little slow. And that's okay. My hand-eye coordination. If I was on an actual Dungeons and Dragons character sheet, I'd have like a fucking 6 in dexterity, man. I am vigilant in the mind, but I am not dexterous. That is for sure. Damn, getting behind this guy's grubby little paw is proving to be difficult. So, just like last stream, if there is an area in which you cannot get to, that means that it will barely ever be visible to actually look at. So, my advice to you, if you can't, like his little, between his elbow on his left arm, I can't really get to. So, my rule is that take the based color, so in this instance it's the Murderous Magenta, and just put a glop in there, just so that's not white. And then we're good, because no one's going to take a look into that little tiny ass corner in his arm and say, oh, you didn't paint that thing the right color. You know, and if they do, they're assholes. Ban them from the table. Be gone! Critic! Because, you know, here we don't allow criticism for our work. We're perfect, right? Goes against everything I literally just said. Right now I'm washing my brush because sometimes the paint dries on the back end if I'm using the front end a ton, and then it just makes it hard to paint. Because I really can't tell how much more paint I have left on the brush. So you see here, even though I know some of this is bone, or supposed to be bone, I'm painting it flash colored, so the shape is going to come through from the mold, but I kind of want to separate it from the rest of the, just to give it like a nice, like, ooh, interwoven fleshy gauntlets. It's looking really good. I'm going to say that about 60 more times. Only because it's true. I love a nice paint job. And damn it, we can be proud of ourselves. Can't we? I see people, I'm part of a Facebook group called Casually Mentions They're Better Than You. And it's just this group that's meant to find things out in the wild of like someone being proud of themselves and then someone just coming in and shitting on their fucking success and being like, oh, I'm better than you, without actually saying I'm better than you. So, and it's funny because like you gotta find humor in that shit, or else it'll destroy you. You know, you'll be mad about that kind of shit for weeks. I say, just feel sad for the individual that they have to make a flex on someone else's success and move on, you know? Like, there's obviously something going on at the home. And that's what I ask all the time. I'm like, are you okay? Is everything okay at home, buddy? You seem, you know, you had to come all the way out here and make a point. Oh my god. It is looking good. He actually has a strap of flesh that's connecting his thumb to the other side. And, like, I'm just trying to fucking replicate that with my paint job. And it's hard. That's why I'm spending so much time on this hand. But you know what? It's okay. It's alright. We can just agree to move on. But he's looking good. The flesh is coming through. The flesh is coming through with the bone, and as long as we can see it, oh shit! I almost knocked that whole paint jar over. It's coming through, and we can be happy just with that. You know, we don't have to spend all that time on there. This is a casual paint. Never said it was professional. We do this for fun. Because that is my golden rule in life. The moment something you love doing becomes like a chore, you know, the moment that you start dreading doing something, it's no longer a hobby. You know, it's work. And I hate work. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I'm a lazy motherfucker. I'm a lazy boy. And all I want out of life is just to, you know, love doing what I do. Which is why I started streaming, because, you know, I'm doing it because I just want to share my, my hobbies with people. And just because I talk to myself and paint anyway, so I might as well just put it out there in case anyone else is feeling, you know, like lonely, or they want something to do, and they might be interested in seeing, you know, how to paint miniatures, and get a basic idea of how to do so casually and love yourself while doing it. So why not? And play video games, because, man, I do love video games. Who doesn't? This guy's got a lot of bone in his central area that connects the front with the back. And I think I know why. I think it's supposed to, like, be his nervous system. That was really cool. That was done extraordinarily well. There's a little hole. There's holes that go through this miniature you see, and like I'm trying to paint inside, so I just took a drop of paint and just like held them upside down for a second, and the paint just went through and got the area which I needed to do. So it was just, that's why I said it was pretty cool. You couldn't see it, but you just gotta believe me that it happened, and it was pretty sweet to watch. We're not trying to get this perfect. We're just trying to make it look good enough so that we can just clearly see bone and flesh together. Like I already got the magenta on the tip of the left second rib, protruding rib. And that's okay. Oh, that's okay, because we got to go back over some of the areas and clean them up anyway. Which, if you watched last time, you know that that's a step in the painting miniature process, is going back over and making the areas look clean. The actual mold of this miniature is beautiful. It is actually really, really cool. And for like 10 or 15 bucks for this guy, you can't beat it. You really can't. There's just for the amount of detail that goes into this mini, has gone into these minis. It's just insane to me that I can just go out and drop 10 bucks and have a badass miniature like this, even unpainted. It's still, you still know exactly what it is. So what I'm doing here now is just being a little careful up towards the real skull, not real skulls, but the clear skulls that are up on the top. I'm being a little bit more conservative with my strokes here, simply because I don't want to take away from the skulls that you can clearly see the eyes and the teeth and the nose of. But like this one that's embedded here, fuck it. I just make the flesh swoop around and just paint onto it, and we'll clean it up later. Because it just looks like a protruding bone from afar. And we're going to have to go back over a few of these bones just because of the cleanup afterwards anyway. So we can just be a little messy here. He's looking great. That whole side is just looking really, really good. We're going to continue working on this leg down here, painting his butt now. Get a nice bounce chicka wow wow shot of me painting his asshole. Did I just say that on stream? Jesus. Everybody was thinking it. And if you weren't thinking it, then, you know, now you're thinking it. So you're welcome. So I'm going to take the flesh color and paint it between every skull, even if the skulls are like touching and there's no flesh there. Because when we go back over cleanup, it's going to look really nice. I promise. It's going to look really good. So who cares if you get a little bit of flesh color on a skull or a lot at this point while going between them, because at the end, the final product will be all the better for it. Now, I always try to hold the miniature by the base. I know a couple of times I've been up here holding them by the arm and stuff, but my fingers get like oily and sweaty. And even dried paint can come off with the oil from your hands. So just be careful if you find that you're like having the miniature lean on your hand for long periods of time, and just be careful to like pull off directly and not rub it when you pull away. We're painting some hard to reach areas now, so the golden rule is just take the base color, right, and we're just going to slop it in there, and that way it's just not white, and it won't take away, I promise, from the rest of the mini. No one will even know it's there. It'll be our dirty little secret. I'm definitely going to have to go back over these bones when we're done with the murderous magenta. That's going to be A-okay. His entire left side is almost done. I think you guys will really like... you see that? It's looking really, really cool. Yeah, looking really good. Thank you. Welcome to the stream. It's looking really nice. We're almost done with the entire right side or left side of his body. And then we're going to move on to the right side. I'm just filling in. I see little white dots to where previous areas have dried, and the paint was pulled away from those areas. Oh, I found another hole that doesn't have paint inside of it, so we're gonna have to deal with that right now. Dunzo. And when I'm done painting the back side of this rib cage, I will show you guys the difference between one side and the other. Now usually I wouldn't paint this way. I'd paint from the bottom of the miniature and I'd just move up. But for the stream, I'm going to show you the difference between double basing and just showing you how doing this way benefits the final product. I gotta increase your guys' faith in me. I feel like our relationship is rocky. There we go. Very nice. All right, so I can put this back for a second and show you guys the difference between basing one side and then going through and basing the other with a different color. Um, so, and you can see areas are sloppy. Like you see the magenta here has gotten on the bones, and then obviously between all the skulls I painted over and looks really, really bad. But the reason why we do this is because it provides us with a template to now work off of. Think of it as like um, trying to shave down when you're woodworking, trying to shave down a piece of wood or sand down something and trying to get an area. If it's 24 by 24, and you find out upon your second measurement, or when you finally bring the wood back to the wall you're going to put it up on, you need to shave it down a little bit, and that's what we're doing. We're just using the two base colors as the template to now give a final detail. You can definitely see the difference on the back side of the advantages of doing so, because now we know exactly which bones we are going to work off of. If we painted this miniature all just one and then we're trying to do all the final detailing, it would take us forever, absolutely forever, to go back over. And we have to be so fucking careful with the murderous magenta not to get anything out that it'll be miserable trying to paint this guy that way. Now some miniatures you could get away with going right from basing to detailing. Sure, you might be able to get away with that, but here with this guy, because he just has really only two defining colors, he's gonna have obviously the bones and the flesh. This was the perfect opportunity to show you guys some of my unique tricks that I use when I paint. So the one thing I am going to do here is I did notice that some of the bone color did seep through to I didn't cover the right areas, but now I am. Alright. We should be good to go on the other side. So I'm going to start painting the other side of him, and we can see that this miniature isn't a carbon copy of this. He's not going to have parts that mirror or mimic the left and right side, so we're going to have to be a little careful and seeing how to paint this guy. He's got holes that are just coming through him, holes in his flesh that we're going to have to paint. So we're going to take a huge glop of that murderous magenta and get in there. Even now, I can see that working on him, even now I can see that working on this side, that it's all the areas that we're going to have to improve with the going back over with the tan. And I'm really excited for that part, because detailing is one of the best parts. It's where the whole miniature comes to life. And it's going to look really fucking good, guys. I've been watching a lot of weird movies recently, and I keep thinking to myself every time I see a new fantasy film, like, why isn't there like a very anyway? Yeah, isn't he? Why isn't there a Dungeons and Dragons movie? Now I know there was, for those who would be like, oh, but there was, and it was horrible. But like, why isn't there like an actual like the Stranger Things on Netflix is, I guess, like a Dungeons and Dragons show, and I think that's really cool. But it's not Dungeons and Dragons. You know, I would think it'd be really cool if there was a show that like, or a movie that was just done, you know, really well, uh, about people who play D&D, and then they, you know, obviously they get like sucked into the D&D world, or they don't get sucked in at all. Maybe it's just Dungeons and Dragons with the lore of those, you know, of the official Wizard of the Coast lore, and I'd love to see those movies. It'd be so cool. Like The Daughter of the Drow would be a nice movie to make. Um, or give me like a Dragonlance film. Dragonlance would be really, really, really cool. You know, like on a Lord of the Rings sized budget. And I'm surprised, honestly, because with how well Game of Thrones did, I'm really surprised we don't have more. We don't have more fantasy-based, huge shows. Now, I know we have a ton of like Netflix originals, but I don't think those are going to go anywhere. I don't think there's enough interest in seeing a Sword in the Stone story all over again. And I think D&D is just the best thing ever. So of course I want to see a show. You know. He's turning out to be a really nice paint. See that? He's turning out really nice. We're doing a good job, guys. Whether you learn something or not from the stream is irrelevant, you know? It's, I think if you're having a good time just watching someone else paint and enjoy their work. I think that's why people watch Bob Ross, honestly. I watch Bob Ross. I don't fucking paint the way he does on canvas. Are you shitting me? I don't learn a goddamn thing from him. But about painting, but I learned that I do learn a lot in other aspects. I learned that you can enjoy your work, and as long as you enjoy your work, others will enjoy watching you enjoy your work. That's why some streamers, that's why I like a lot of streamers, and that's why I dislike a lot of streamers. It's a love hate, because some streamers are just so full of themselves, and it's not like they enjoy playing anymore. It's like they have to be the best at what they do, and they're so competitive about what they do. Like I want to stream Super Smash Brothers Ultimate eventually, and I am just it is my favorite game of all time. But I am so competitive in that game that like I don't know if people will enjoy watching me play because of how competitive I am with it. Like I'll sit there and I will grind a set with somebody just so that I can learn their style of that matchup and then never play with them ever again. It's just crazy. That's why I moved the stream to do these every once in a while. And that's because painting is relaxing, and I could kind of just like shoot the shit with you guys while I do something I love. And it's not like I don't love playing Super Smash Brothers. It's just it has a nice competitive nature. Oh, not a nice competitive nature, more like a dangerous competitive nature with me. So I would be talking more about the actual what I'm actually doing, but I feel like I've already covered all my bases, and it's just a lot more of the same. Um, there's not really any more tips I can give other than when you do a double base coat like this, or not two coats, but a double base and colors, that you don't have to be as careful with both colors as someone would think. Every time someone looks at my miniatures and they say that they could never paint that or something, and they get those comments frequently, I go, fucking course you can. Or they're like, people are like, oh, I don't have time for it, and then it's just not their, it's just not their thing. I get asked a ton to paint people's miniatures, and I have such a hard time pricing my work because would I paint someone else's minis for free? I would, if they were like a really good friend of mine, and like we were playing a campaign together. And I pay all my players don't have to buy miniatures for themselves. I have a huge mini collection, and I have a ton of unpainted ones on purpose so that when a player picks an unpainted miniature, I try to find some point between then and in the campaign's end to like paint it for them, and then it's really cool because I get a painted miniature that they could tell me what colors they want me to paint it with, and I get to see one of my my work at the table every session, and it's a really fun, really cool way of just kind of like rewarding them and rewarding yourself. But like painting a miniature someone buys for themselves and then you painting it, like commissioning my work, I don't know if I could ever do that, only because then this becomes work, you know? Now, if one of my friends was running a really big campaign, or if someone was running a really big campaign and they're like, hey, I want you to paint one of my big boss fights for me, I'll supply the mini. And I think I'd probably do that. I just couldn't paint like their entire party for them. I got miniatures that I need to paint, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta get stuff done. But I'm gonna try to do commissions for my viewers. That's one of the things I really want to do, is that like if people, one of my viewers wants to have a miniature painted by me, that I'm gonna get, if that's something that really does happen, I can make a PO box for people to mail me the mini that they want me to paint, and then I can paint it for them on the stream, and then they can, I think that'd be really cool. Just to show my viewers some love. Alright, I think his leg is almost done. I just pulled it away for a little bit because I needed to see really close really closely if I got every piece that I needed to be painted. It's looking good though. We're almost done with him. We're almost done. Oh my gosh. We're gonna get to my favorite part here soon. Now I'm just painting his shoulder, which eventually goes up to a huge collection of bones on top of where like his head would be, but it's just a huge, just fucking hulking mass of muscle with a collection of skulls on top. be so careful. Gotta be so careful in this next part here. We have a hard to reach area behind his rib cages, so we take once again a shit ton of paint and we glob it down in there so that way we can get it colored so it's not just staying all white. Nothing sucks more to oh, welcome to the stream. What are we gonna call about? Hopefully nothing too personal. That might have been a bone what I just painted over, but we can always take a secondary look at it when we're done. Hell yes, we're looking good here, guys. We're gonna paint the mush between all these skulls. We're gonna take a huge glop of this paint just so that we can, in a single strokes, get between all the skulls here. I think I love that the inside of that one skull's eye still. I will be available after the stream for a phone call. I'll call you when I'm done. I'm going to come into town tomorrow as well. Looks like Mango is coming to visit me. My kitty cat Mango. She just crawled under my legs. She's gonna come visit the stream and meow into the microphone probably. All right, we're almost done. Or maybe we are done. Let me just fix up this area. And I think we'll be done with basing him. Yeah, he looks really good. We're going to clean the brush now. This brush has served us well in this endeavor. All right, I gotta roll my sleeves up, but take a look now. He is completely based. What we'll be able to do now is go back with a even smaller brush, and we're going to clean up every last piece of protruding bone that you can see and give it a nice clean cut off from the flesh, so that way it doesn't look like I just sloppily painted it on like I just did. It's going to be a really fun part, because after that after I clean up the bone, I think what I am going to do is that a cool idea is that the holes that are piercing through him, if I paint those holes purple, like just the inside of them purple with some leaking purple out of them, it'll kind of look like there's some deeper rotting flesh inside of him that's maybe trying to pull things together. So I'm going to let the magenta dry now. I can definitely see there's some shine to some areas. So we're going to let this guy dry for now. And let me see here. I'm going to eat some soup. And we're going to talk about future projects on the stream while he dries. There are 3 miniatures I need to paint before I go away on a small vacation in a couple weeks. I need to paint this huge froghemoth. As you see, it's about double the size of him, so that will be a really fun one to paint on stream. The froghemoth is just a really nasty looking guy. Like, it's a giant frog with tentacles and a tentacled tongue. Very disgusting. What I like about him is that he is kind of his mold isn't like super stiff, so he's going to be a lot of fun to paint. I have to paint another huge creature monster from Dungeons and Dragons, the Hill Giant male, and he has a giant fucking club and a huge backpack, and so he's gonna be really fun to paint. He's gonna have a ton of different browns and leathers on him when we get to him. What's really cool, actually, which is what I'll show you guys here right now, is that I have a box set of Wizards of the Coast's their official miniatures that are pre-painted, and we'll show you the details and the comparison between some of these miniatures. Like, for instance, let me if I set this down here. This is a Fire Giant Dreadnought. This is a pre-paint from Wizards of the Coast. And you'll see that this is pretty much how they paint all of their miniatures, whether they're huge, giant, huge, gargantuan, large, or small. You'll notice that they got a interesting wash on the front, but the shields and the armor are all painted one exact color. They got one color for the flesh, and then the same color of the eyes are the same color as the mouth, and then they have this red this like orangish red wash on it. So there's only one color, 2 for the belt, 3 for the flesh, 4 for the eyes, and then there's 2 washes. So Wizards of the Coast usually uses only 4 to 6 colors, and the wash is not on there, I think, strategically at all. Not to talk shit on their products, but the reason why I got into miniature painting at all was because I hated the way some of these were painted. Like, for instance, the Gold Dragon by Paizo, the guys that do Pathfinder. This is a pre-painted miniature gold dragon, and it looks really cool. They went out of their way to paint the tip of the wings all black, and the talons and spikes all black, and the mouth and teeth are all different colors. So I'm really happy with the way Paizo goes about this, but it's still all one gold color. It would have been cool to see maybe different types of golden shade to differentiate the inside of the wings from the outside, and his belly from, his belly from his actual golden scales. So they set a standard, and the only goal that I have when I paint my miniatures, the only goal that I have is to pass the standard of what you could buy in a booster box. So when we get to painting the hill giant, this is the Coast Hill Giant, female, the counterpart. And you see that she's not painted horribly at all. Like you can definitely tell what she is and what is what. But for everything that they have done with this one, that they've done right, I'm gonna try to double the colors from her to him, and then we'll have a nice direct comparison of what these hill giants, the quality that you'll get in a booster box, the quality you can potentially have if you paint your own miniatures. And the payoff is just massive. It takes obviously hours of your time, but like buying this roper, if you go look up the roper from Wizard of the Coast, you'll see a huge difference in the paint quality. So I believe that the magenta has dried, and now we can go back. So before I begin detailing, I'm going to take a nice color purple. I'm going to take beaten purple. It is just basically your most purples of purples, and I'm going to paint the holes. To paint the inside of the holes and supply some leakage to go on. So that way the holes have some different colors. And as always, the details we can't capture on my stream camera, I'll post pictures to the AlPaladin Facebook page for all to see. So here we have a hole where a spine loops out. See down his left leg there? I'm going to paint the inside of that hole purple. So we know that's like a separation of where the flesh, that magenta flesh, once was. And I think this purple will be a super nice contrast to the magenta, so that way we can see, oh, maybe the flesh exploded around there, or a successful firebolt or lightning bolt struck through this creature a couple times. I don't know. I think there's always a story to be told with these kind of things. I see another hole behind him, behind his leg that could be painted. Perfect. And that's not really going to add too much detail to him, but it'll be really cool to just, for anybody that picks up the miniature and wants to take a look at it. The reason why I'm painting this a different color at all is because I want to have something that captures the eye towards the holes at all. And the best way to do that is to paint them an entirely different color, Best way to do it. Thing is, with how much purple we're going to have to use to kind of amplify the colors there, we're going to have to let it dry again, which is always a sad part of the stream. So we have two holes that are really close to each other on the right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give me 1 second here. I gotta shake the paint up a little bit. It's a little watery. Paint was a little watery. But what I'm gonna do is paint both holes the same. So that way it accents both at the same time. he just looks gross, guys. He's just one big gross motherfucker. The back sides of the holes is where the holes that are through them is really where this purple is going to pop. For sure. And then when we wash him, he's going to be this really dark, dirty, fleshed thing. And he's going to look really nice. See, he definitely looks like there's some maybe purple blood oozing out of him now. I like that purple so much that I'm going to just take a strand of the flesh that's up here and paint it purple. So a nice little happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. Any other thing we could just paint purple real quick? Oh god, it's so gross. I'm gonna paint the back side of his, or the front. Decisions. Actually, I'm gonna make the veins that are grasping these skulls all purple. That'll look real nice. That'll make that part of the miniature pop for sure. And we don't have to go too overbearing with this purple. I think I've done enough. I'm not going to try to get any more creative with it. We have just enough of that purple on him that everybody will understand that it's different colors going on. Hey, thanks, Cody. I appreciate that. I want to show you what we just did. Let me see if I can get it focused on him. Yeah, there we go. So we just put on all the purple there through all the holes, so the holes are accented. And see if we can't get it to refocus. There we go. All the holes on him are painted with purple to kind of draw your attention, as well as some cluster of bones have some purple away from them, just so we can see that the reel will give a size comparison of how things, the distance between one bone to the other. So it's really nice. I enjoy this color scheme that we have for him. So before I go to clean up the bones that are on him now, I did realize that there was some fleshy bits down here that where the bone is at that can still be kind of painted over a little bit. So that is the beauty of going over something multiple times, is that you see areas where you can improve before you start cleaning up the miniature, so you don't have to go over it a third or fourth time, and it just inevitably just starts looking really, really good. Alright, so I think that's good. I don't want to get into too much detail here with the flesh and the bones. Just gotta clean up a little bit. Alright, I'll go crazy if I keep doing that. Damn. So now we're going to, before we continue, all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this Trader Green and I'm going to paint the ground. Because the ground has not been painted yet. It's all white still. With this Trader Green, I can take the bigger brush now, again, and we're going to just paint the ground so that way it's out of the way. So if we don't have to worry about screwing up any other part of the miniature after the ground is painted. The reason why we don't paint the ground first is because we have to go back over it at the end with all the different colors that we splooshed on there. But now that we're going into detailing, we don't have to worry about touching the ground with any other color ever again. We just have to be really careful. You guys can't see what I'm painting right now because I'm trying to be very, very careful with painting the ground. I don't want to make a mistake here that's going to cause us to have to go back over the miniature again with the magenta. I'm trying to avoid the magenta from here on out. All right. Trying to get a nice view for you guys so you guys can see. The reason why I went with Trader Green for the ground is because it complements the bones. The bones are tan, and with Trader Green they look like just like darker, a nice darker color to the bones. But they're not going to actually take away from the bones. See, I didn't want to contrast the floor too much to where it snuffed out or didn't complement any part of the miniature. I didn't go with gray because I didn't want a gray floor. A gray floor would have made this miniature look very bland at the end. But this nice gray at the bottom is going to make the miniature look complete whenever we wash it. And it's just one of those things. But once again, you'll just have to trust me and take my word for it. Hell yes. That looks so nice. It looks so good. Take a look at that. That floor that's on there, and we're going to clean that up with some black later. Don't worry. That'll be literally the very, 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 very last step that we do for the miniature. But now that the floor is done, we don't have to worry about fucking it up. That's why I always paint the ground of the mini before detailing. I actually think you will be, Cody. I'm painting many of these miniatures on stream to use for that campaign. So do watch the stream knowing that there might be spoilers going in. So the very next step we have is the second to last step. We're going to clean up the bones of the miniature, and then we're going to wash the miniature, and then we're going to paint black over the base, the actual, like, the black base of the miniature, where paint might have gotten loose off to after the floor had dried, and then the miniature will be done. Yeah, I got about 4 or 5 other miniatures to paint before the trip. I wanted some really interesting characters for that campaign. In about 10 days, me and a ton of friends are renting out a cabin out of state, and we're all going to play D&D together and enjoy the outside. And we're going to get our drink on, and we're going to play D&D for a long weekend, a huge one-shot campaign that I'll run for them. And my friend Cody and I and the rest of us haven't played together in years, so it'll be nice to, you know, get that experience, and that's why I'm painting so much. All right, now I'm going to be extraordinarily careful. I'm still going to use this Kalinsky Masterclass to clean up, but I'm going to be very, very conservative with the paint, which means I'm not going to glop it on the front. I'm going to use the rim here to spread the paint out over my brush. And now I'm going to paint the side of skulls that I see where the flesh color kind of went over it. This is my favorite part of painting the miniature, is detailing like this. The reason why this is my favorite part is because it allows me to, this is me caring about the miniature. This is me making the last finishing touches, and I'm going to start with the left leg since that's where I started the paint job in the first place. And we don't necessarily, if you want to speed paint, you don't necessarily have to do a cleanup for your miniature. I just suggest doing it because it'll really make you appreciate not only the detailing of the mold, but it'll let you appreciate your own work. So many fucking skulls need to be painted back over. But we're not going to get crazy with it, though, as you see. We're not going to try to be perfect and separating the flesh. We're just going to give them a nice, smooth transition. And it's going to be really okay if we fuck up here. Because fucking up here just means that more bone will show out of the flesh, and that's okay. But what we don't want is to have the flesh paint very paintingly like liquidly to be over the bones, like right here. We want that to be a nice smooth transition from the flesh color to the tan. And see, now that skull on that leg, this one right here in particular, looks almost complete. And once we wash these guys, it's gonna look really fucking good. We just have to be really careful not to not to be inconsistent. You can already tell just from cleaning up that side in comparison to this side. Look at that, perfect comparison. That's not cleaned up, and that side is cleaned up, and you can just, this side right here, you can just see that the flesh is still between all of the bones, but it's not like just sloppily painted over. So yeah, that's why we do what we do, guys, on the stream. That's why we do this. A wonderful looking model, man. This guy is gross. He is disgusting in every way, and I love it. That part is great right there. That little hidden skull right there that we just painted, that looked really nice. Looking really good, guys. I appreciate everybody who's jumped in and out of the stream and has kept me company while doing this. I love this. This is one of my favorite hobbies, and I can't help but feel always nostalgic. I don't know if nostalgic's the right word. Nostalgic for something that isn't old. I don't know what it is. Happiness. I'm not sure, but it's a good feeling. Detailing your work like this and making it the best it can be. You know, I could try to be perfect and go down to a smaller brush size and try to get the perfect little etchings in there, but that's why I love to wash the miniature afterward with my ink, with the black ink that I use. It just really puts in the details that I don't have the skill to make happen, to get in there. Really nice. His entire left leg is cleaned up. It looks really, really good. We're going to move on from the left leg. I mean, not right leg, but the left leg, and we're going to move up to the left arm. And we're going to do the whole left side of the miniature first. Now, usually I wouldn't do it like this. Once again, I'd be working from the bottom the entire time and working my way up. But because it's on the stream, I want to show the differences between doing cleanup and doing double basing and not doing double basing and not cleaning up the miniature for detailing. It really does show a difference. Now, to get these little areas that need a single little stream of a little bit of paint just to get the bones to come through, I roll my brush and get like a corkscrew onto a wet piece of paper towel, and then that's when I go in like a pencil or a pen and make sure that none of the frills at the end of the hairs at the end of the brush compromise the lines that I want to paint. That looks really good. Like really, really good. Very happy with that. So we're going to get the back of his leg, this bone right here. Looks good. Now we're going to clean up the back side of his rib cage here. There we go. It's as simple as that. If anyone ever wants to paint a miniature with me, please let me know. Send me details of the miniature that you have, and if I don't have it already, I'll go out and buy it, and then I can paint it on stream, and we can, like, you know, you can follow along while I paint it, and we can paint it together. I'd be happy to share your photos you send me and share them to the AlPaladin Facebook page and show the differences of how we paint the miniature. We're going to clean up the claws just a little bit. I noticed where I over painted on the flashy murderous magenta, where I went a little overboard. Going to pull up my sleeves. Going to pull up my sleeves and go back into this. We're painting his hand now. We're cleaning up the bones on his hand to give a nice sharper contrast between where the skulls and the pointed finger bones are. We're not trying to lose the integrity of where the veins are that kind of hold all of them together on that arm. And that's why I painted them purple, so we could see the difference between the skulls and where the veins are on the hand on the model, but still not going to lose too much of what's holding this whole thing together. And what reminds us, what holds this whole thing together, of the model, the monster. It's a bone golem. It's in the name. The bones and this nasty ass flesh are what's keeping this thing held together with the necrotic magic that is no doubt surging through this thing at every given step. I can't wait to personally use this guy and an encounter I have planned. So now what I'm going to do is, I see there's some bone areas that I had missed. I'm just dotting over them so that they protrude a little bit better. Because remember, at the end of this, we are going to wash the entire mini. And it's going to be a real tricky wash at the end, guys. A real tricky wash. Because we got to wash the whole guy black. Excuse me. Whew. Oh, I have the window open. Spring is coming into my nostrils while I'm trying to paint. But he's going to be a real tricky model to wash because I want to put blood on him. I want blood to kind of be seeping around all over the miniature. So I might have to wash him first and then highlight him with the red. But I can't get too crazy with the red. So it's gonna get difficult. And I think that's gonna be the most fun part of this miniature. And the most challenging is seeing how well we can get him detailed. All right. His whole left side is almost completely done. We just got a couple more skulls to paint over. Almost done. We're almost done with this side. All right. One more bone I see actually needs to be painted over, and that's because I missed it in my initial paint job. Perfect. Hell yes. All right. So I gotta wash my brush a little bit. And his entire left side, so let's see if we can get this to focus. Sweet. As you see, his entire left side is detailed. It is complete. And you can just tell the difference from, even just from the legs, the difference at the base of the legs for the left leg and then the right leg. The left leg is way cleaner. The skulls are way more defined, and they're more blotchy on the right side. So right there is your benefit of just cleaning up your mini. You can even tell the cleanup difference on the back side of the rib cage, the difference that you would do. And even the back side of the legs, it's very apparent. Now the arms are looking good too. He is looking really, really nice. So we're going to start, and I'm just going to paint the right side of the miniature, and then to complete him, and then we'll wash him, and then we'll highlight him with the blood, and then he will be complete. Woo! I gotta stretch my back for a second. I've been hunched over on this table for the last, what, we're on going on 2 hours and 17 minutes of the stream. He's not a bad paint job. Every paint job like this usually takes about 3.5 hours. But don't let that time intimidate you. You know, if you got an afternoon to yourself, like I did today, cleaning up a miniature and painting up, painting one is a nice way to spend a day off, especially if you're feeling a little antisocial. Nothing's wrong with wanting a little time to yourself. So I apparently went really, really ham on this side with the magenta. It's a lot less clean than the other leg. That's for sure. So we got a little bit more work on this side ahead of us. Which is perfectly fine. I relish in the challenge, really. As you see, I made that spine that's down there on the back of his leg. I made it more defined. Our technique never changes. And you can already see the difference. More spherically pronounced. Just like that. And you can see between those two skulls, right there, is another skull hidden. And we didn't even know it was there until now, because we are detailing. I just got into Star Wars Legion, and I do plan on making a whole streaming segment about painting Star Wars miniatures. Oh, I just dropped him. Oh, man. That'll definitely happen every once in a while. But yeah, I'll make a whole segment about painting Star Wars miniatures for Star Wars Legion. And maybe even stream a game or two with some friends. We're gonna have to get really creative with this side. There are a couple skulls that are just gonna be difficult to get to and to detail on the right leg. Alright. I personally can't wait to paint some of those Star Wars minis because I'm going to make them look really weird. I'm going to give them paint schemes and color schemes that I would likely never, that you'd never see in a Star Wars character. But I want my armies on Legion to be unique. Just like every miniature that I paint, I want them to look unique. Okay, this side here is almost done. I'm making sound effects now for my success. Ka-choo! Ka-chow! But damn, it's, oh man, I love it. I said it about 60 times. I'll say another 60. It's looking really, really good. Nice. This leg is almost done. Go. We gotta now switch it over to this side a little bit, and we're gonna attempt to get this other spine painted. All right. That spine actually goes all the way around. See, there's a little spot here that it comes down around the leg. That is really cool. And there's a bone here. And a bone there. And I would have never known those were there until we started to detail. I'm not talking that much because I am really focused. This right leg skulls are a little more difficult to get to without fucking up the integrity of all the hard work that we have put in so far. Perfect. Oh my gosh. Woo! All right, the right leg is done. Sorry for the silence, but as you see, there was a ton of skulls and they were just clumped together. The left leg had some decent room between the flesh and the legs, and now I can say that our patience has certainly paid off. All of those bones on that right leg look very pronounced, very defined, and now we can move on to the back of the right side of the spine and clean up some of the creeping paint of the flesh and just kind of paint over these hard to reach areas. I gotta do that corkscrew technique because my hairs are splitting apart. But thank you so much for joining me, as we are nearing the end of this paint job. The reason why I took such a big glop out was because I need to cover a lot of area in a single stroke, and I don't want to mess up where the bone is actually at on this miniature. Alright, so that part is done. We just have the right arm left. The right arm left. That's such an interesting way to say that. The right arm remains. That's better. Now we're going on to the arm. We can almost get there. And by get there, I mean we could almost get everything done on this arm that needs to get done with this single glob of paint. Just like on the left arm, we're going to clean up the protruding fingers and give the skulls in this area a little bit more definition. This has been a extraordinarily fun paint for me, guys. I liked this more than the Roper. The Roper was great, don't get me wrong. I loved the Roper. It's so hard to rate which models are more fun to paint. But I think this is just the cooler monster between the two. I mean, it's a fucking thing full of bones and skulls. It just radiates evil, you know. It also screams, you know, I could kill an entire party. Honestly, on the hand, we did such a good job coming through here with the magenta that there's not much for us really to go over and really do. I'd be afraid to get crazy here with the amount of detail I could put on it, or the amount of definition I could give to the skulls. Simply because the magenta passing through the skulls was spaced so well to begin with. I don't want to fuck that up. I think that's because we started with the left hand, so naturally we got better with the idea that we wanted as we continued to paint the miniature. Because honestly, I don't think any more definition needs to be done on those skulls. But on the fingertips, I can definitely see where we messed up. And that's okay. We're allowed to make mistakes, guys. I know it's easy to forget that when you're trying to do something, you're trying to perfect an art, or you're trying to make someone happy. And sometimes you kind of get lost in trying to do. You get lost in trying to do better that you forget to do your best. And I think that is just, hey, hello, welcome to the stream. We're almost done here, but I'm glad you you showed up and said hi. We got a few steps left. We're painting the bone golem from Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm just detailing and defining a few of these skulls that are making up this phenomenal miniature. can definitely see where this spine here that's underneath the arm didn't get colored at all. So we'll fix that right away. And we can even go ahead and paint underneath the rib cage right now. Because we got that good of an angle on it. And we're almost done with him before he gets washed. And washing is just the last little amount of detail that we will put into him. But yeah, he's almost done. And we've done such a fantastic job. Whew! Alright, we're going to let him just sit down and dry for a little bit. I can hear that my headphones are actually about to die. Ugh! So I gotta plug that charger into here real quick, if you guys don't mind. Here we go. All right, I'm back. Thank you for your patience. Now, we've done a phenomenal job today, guys. A really, really good job. We cleaned him up. And I think, honestly, we are ready to give him his wash. Because that's really the last step here. Now, I could paint over some of the bones. I could paint over some of the skulls and some of the fingers. With a off-white or different tans. Like I said, I wanted to, at the beginning of the stream, I wanted to give some bones different colors. But I fell in love with giving the bones all the same color throughout the stream and throughout the paint job. It just looks so good. Why attempt to compromise that idea? Or that paint job, you know? It's done so well. I'm very happy with this paint. And guess what? We made it under my color budget for the day. We're only going to have 5 colors that make up this miniature today. But the last step, as I said, that we're going to do before cleaning up that base there, the actual black base of the part of the floor came out, so I have to go and redo that. But we have to wash the miniature. Now, how I wash a miniature is a little different from, I think, how everyone else paints. Now, if someone's watching the stream who's a professional painter, they're probably going to gag when they see what I do to my miniatures when it comes to washing them. But I love to make my miniatures look dark and gritty and dirty because they're in a fucking dungeon, you know? This is the final product of making, or this is the final product of one of the miniatures. This is like my style. It's very dark, but still detailed. You know, highly detailed, but it's very dark, very gritty. And so you can see the difference, the vibrancy. You'll see how this one's much darker, this one's brighter, and he was once like that. But washing him is now going to make him look like this, and washing him is going to help define all of those nice little itty bitty details that we've missed before, or that we didn't even know that were there. So what we do is we take a brush, a standard brush. This one is all hard and broken up, so I think I fucked up. I think I might need a brand new washing brush, which is just fine. So what I'm going to do is take out a brand new brush out of my bin here. A massive bin. And perfect. I found the perfect brush already. So I take a standard brush and I just fill the brush with water, just like that. I'll leave the water in there. I don't try to like dry it or clean it up too bad. And I take that and I put that brush in this ink, right? I take it in the ink, and then I take that same ink and I apply it to my miniature. And you might go, whoa, that puts a lot of black on there. But you take that same brush that you applied it with, and you now just move all around that miniature. You move that ink all over it, and that ink is going to sit between every nook and cranny and every eyeball, every nose, between all the bones, and it's going to give the definition of this creature that we desperately needed, because we only used 5 colors, right? Technically 4, because we haven't highlighted him with blood yet, which is the very last step to painting this miniature. Thank you, Cody. I think this one is one of my favorites that I've ever painted. It is just really, really cool. And it's not often that you just see a miniature on the shelf at a store and you're like, I wanna use that in a campaign. And then you buy it. You buy it, you paint it, you use it. Oh no! That's fine. You know what? That's fine. The glue that I used for the base just finally wore out. And he just kind of fell over. So as you see, we have put a shit ton of wash on this mini. A ton. And we're going to keep going until we got a decent amount everywhere. But worry not, we're not going to let it dry into every area, because we don't want him going from super colorful to this dark, deep black that we'll never be able to recover from and see his fleshy vibrancy. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to finish with a nice coat on top, and then I'm going to take the remaining in there and I'm going to wash the ground of the miniature, right? Because the ground is still part of the miniature and we need that just as defined as the rest of the mini. So now we're going to take a nice drier brush and we're going to use a nice thin brush like this, and we're going to make sure it's relatively dry, and we're going to move now all of that ink. We're going to just dry brush him all over the place and move that ink all around him while wiping it down onto the paper towel that I have here. So like it'll act as a mop and clean up and mop up all of the excess ink but it'll leave it in the areas that we really wanted it in to begin with. Such as the eyes of all the skulls and whatnot. In between the spine. See, that's the huge part. So I really want to get that spine on the back dirty. I want to get it filthy. All right. And then you can see that he is done. He is, and I can even hold him up here into the light a little bit and show you guys a nice finished product. And you can see that that ink has put so much of that detail into all the eyes of the skulls, into the bones, that the washing your miniature this way is like my favorite thing to do. But it's not for everybody. It isn't. It's not, you know, if someone wanted to keep their golem super vibrant like it had it, like we had it before, that's fine. But this is a AlPaladin paint kind of style. Very dark, very gritty. He is done. What I'm going to do is that since the base since he came off his fucking base, I can just take the black here that we had, and I can take a really big brush like the regiment, right? And I can take the black that's in there and just kind of paint over all of that green that was on there, just so when we glue him back on, we can see that he is completely finished. And we don't need to worry about any of that green coming through whatsoever. So once we have that even distribution of paint, yeah, he looks good. The base looks good. We'll set the base aside. And this is gonna, honest to God, this is gonna be the hardest part. What's gonna come next? Because we based him and we washed him. I don't want the bloody red highlighting I want to do to mess up the integrity of what we already have. But I promised that I would, and so now I will. So we're going to take this nice Scorn red, and we are going to paint him. We're going to highlight over the ink now, this red, but we can't be idiots about it. We got to take the whole brush and cover the entire brush with the red paint that we want to use. We then take that red paint and we're going to just roll it around in a circle inside here, okay? And after we roll it in a circle around here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're just going to get the brush red. So we're going to take that, we're going to dry brush over some of these skulls, just like this. And some of the skulls, like on the feet and on the bones, we want that red to pop, okay? So that looks really good. It's looking really, really good. So once again, we roll it around, go boom, 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 and we just paint over some of the bone. And it'll look really nice when it's done. This is called dry brushing. Dry brushing is phenomenal. You can use it for highlighting like I'm doing now. And all this is really doing, you don't have to do this. All this is really doing is just telling a story with this mini, you know? It's giving the mini some nice. Now, the reason why I didn't rub it there is because we got a lot of area that I wanted to cover on his spine with this nice red tint, right? And we're going to finish this in a nice time here. I mean, it just looks good. And we're done. You know, you don't got to do anything else. That is just perfect. That is just absolutely perfect. Look at what the red did for us. Let me see if I can get it to focus a little bit better. Maybe up here. Maybe that's just the only thing. Let's see here. There we go. Look at what the red highlight did for us. It made the golem come out really, really nice. Look at that paint job. We did that in less than 3 hours. What a phenomenal paint job. I'm very happy with what we did, what we accomplished. And I can't thank you guys enough for joining me on the stream. He's going to look absolutely great next to any other miniature. You see, like, he and I think compared between the two of them, I like the flesh golem more, or the bone golem more than the roper from last. But they're both very nice. They're both great. What can I say? I like them both. So thank you for joining me on the stream. The next stream we're going to do, I'm going to paint the hill giant and show you guys the direct contrast between a Wizards of the Coast miniature and then the ones that I paint, so you can see the difference. If you ever doubted it, if you ever doubted my skill, next time will be an eye-opener for you. But thank you guys so much for joining the stream. The flesh golem turned out to be really, really good. I love this paint job. It was great. Highlighting the blood at the end, I'm glad I stayed true to my word and I took that risk because it turned out great. Take all risks in life. Nothing good comes easy. That's the best advice.